In the criminal justice system, the people are represented by two separate but equally important groups: the police, who investigate, and the prosecutors, who prosecute crime. They are assisted by people and organizations that care, like Detroit Edison, a DTE energy company. This is the story of one such crime of epidemic proportion: copper theft. Did you know that a penny is worth more than a penny these days? The rising price of copper could mean those U.S. pennies in your piggy bank may soon be worth up to 5 times their face value, says an economist at the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago. At least those minted before 1982, when they were 97% copper. Today, pennies are 97% zinc, and there's a movement on to eliminate them altogether from our currency. The fate of the penny notwithstanding, its value, or at least the value of the copper it used to be made of, is the crux of the problem in Detroit, the United States, and in fact, the world. Copper theft can mean the theft of anything from decorative roofs on churches to statues in parks. But the utilities that light and heat our homes and businesses, that make our phones work and light our streets, suffer the greatest losses by far, as thieves steal copper wire every day and sell it as scrap. Millions of miles of utility cables crisscross our country from coast to coast. Unguarded and vulnerable, anyone reckless enough to take a chance on being electrocuted can attempt to steal these wires anytime, and they do all too often.
The theft of copper is pervasive throughout this country. Though difficult to estimate, the costs are in the millions of dollars.
Generally, the wires that we see on the utility poles in all of our communities are arranged so that the least energized, like communications lines, are the lowest on the pole. Detroit Edison's electric lines that carry thousands of volts of electricity are the highest. Copper thieves aren't terribly discriminating about what lines they steal or how they steal them. They use chainsaws and even axes to cut down poles. But utility poles aren't the only targets. Substations, construction sites, and traffic signal boxes all have a wealth of copper wiring. In Metro Detroit alone, hundreds of incidents of copper theft over the last few years have resulted in several arrests. But thieves also die or are injured. People risk their lives for copper.
These thefts cause dangerous situations. They threaten the reliability of people's electric service and put people at risk. And not just thieves, hospitals, fire stations, and emergency responders like 911.
Over the last several years, the price of copper has been at record levels. This increase can be attributed to multiple factors, including copper mine disasters in Indonesia, strikes in Chile, increased demand from China and other emerging markets, and the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. When copper briefly hit a high of $3.99 per pound, thieves could sell 100 1982 pennies for $3, or 100 pounds of copper for nearly $400. There is no sign that these prices will decrease anytime soon. During the same time, copper theft increased 100% each year, in some places as much as 150%. Dallas reported 1,500 cases of copper theft in 1 year alone. Detroit Edison has one facility that had repeated incidents over a period of several months. Stolen copper can be sold for hundreds of dollars at scrap yards. Stripped and in bulk, copper wire is nearly impossible to identify as stolen.
Thanks to the police for doing a tremendous job. They know criminals just don't break into houses, and so they've been looking up and actually catching individuals climbing our poles to steal the wire.
Looking up works to catch thieves in the act and to keep wires on the poles. But what happens once the wires are down? It's not a simple matter of just piling them onto a truck and taking the wires to a scrap dealer. The thieves must strip off the wire sheathing that covers the wires. Some of it has identification imprinted on it. Stripped wire also is more valuable at the scrapyard. Thieves usually remove the insulation the easy way, with fire. Once the wire sheathing is removed, there's really no way to tell where the wire came from. Burning also makes the wire easy to sell as it's ready for recycling. That's why thieves usually do the burning immediately after they steal the wire. No identification, no evidence, easy sale. So, next to looking up and finding someone on a pole who should not be, discovering someone burning the insulation off a cable is usually clear-cut evidence of copper theft. Major busts are made by recognizing the black cloud of smoke and smell like a burning car that petroleum-based insulation gives off when burned.
It's a smell that you immediately recognize if you know what it is.
People who steal utility lines for copper more often than not leave the scene unsafe. Please contact DTE Energy Copper Theft Hotline so that the site can be returned to a safe condition. And remember, do not approach or touch dangling or downed lines or anything they are touching. You could be electrocuted. Trends appear to illustrate a possible link between copper theft and illegal drug use. Maps of metal theft hotspots coincide noticeably with hotspots of drug abuse. In one case, officers found a house full of stolen metal with one of the occupants shooting up as the bust occurred. The suspect asked if he could finish before they arrested him. The apparent trend between drugs and copper theft explains the irrationality behind some of the riskiest metal theft and its consequences. On the other hand, utility substations are broken into regularly. Thieves climb utility poles, cut wires, and sometimes are killed during these dangerous activities.
These people are looting our infrastructure, which provides us with a quality of life, electricity. Some people think they have impunity from this. Others are desperate drug addicts. Both are criminals.
Detroit Edison takes a proactive approach to the copper theft epidemic by routinely inspecting our electrical equipment for tampering. We've also created a copper theft task force with other utilities and local law enforcement agencies. This task force shares information, educates the public about copper theft, and provides programs like this for law enforcement awareness. We also encourage people to help safeguard their communities. We ask them to never touch a downed wire or anything in contact with that wire, to notify the police immediately if they suspect unauthorized access or tampering with Detroit Edison equipment, to notify Detroit Edison if they see hanging wires, open electrical boxes, or doors or fences to utility properties, to install motion sensor lights outside their homes and businesses, and by all means, to call the DTE Energy Copper Theft Hotline if they suspect or want to report evidence of copper theft. City and state laws also address this epidemic. For example, buying or selling stolen copper wire is a felony, and by law, scrap dealers must record all transactions. Yet the first line of defense still remains the police with their vigilant patrols. Awareness of the signs of copper theft and understanding of how dangerous, costly, and widespread this problem really is. Copper theft is everyone's concern and everyone's loss, and in everyone's interest to stop.